All right, we're on. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is EOPcast. Man, we got a full team today, or as close to a full team as possible. Jarika's not here, Leslie's not here, but we've got 2 new people here, or new-ish, well, and 3 new actually, because we have Dr. Martinez, our special guest. But before I do that, let me introduce this gentleman to my right. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah. What's your name? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Adrian Valdovinos. I'm a part of EOP. I'm a assistant peer mentor. And yeah.
All right. Santi, you want to go just say a little bit?
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Santiago Fuentes, third-year student, Cal State East Bay. Why always laughing when I say that? We don't even know your background. More like born and raised in Hayward.
Likes long walks on the beach.
Yeah, exactly.
I like walking my dog.
There you go.
Right. All right. Go ahead, ladies.
My name is Kenya.
My name is Daniela. I'm a 4th year, and I am from Placerville, California.
And she's about to graduate. Can we get
graduate? All right. My
Can't forget that part.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't forget that part. So today we have, for the first time, Dr. Antonio Martinez is with us, our EOP director, and sees activities. I don't know your whole title. You got to tell us your full title.
Yeah, so once again, Dr. Antonio Martinez, honor and pleasure to be here. Former EOP and CSU East Bay alumni, and as my colleague Will said, director of this amazing education opportunity program here at California State University East Bay, and I support the C's advising initiatives. So I think that was the part that you were trying to get together.
That's what it is. It's such a lengthy title.
It is. I forget all that I have to do with that, but yeah, it's fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, and part of that too is just, obviously this is an EOP program, but it's for all of our C students as well. So that's why I always want to make sure I get that in there. And today's just going to be a conversation, and hopefully we can get a little bit more insight as to Dr. Martinez and his story. But before I do that, I definitely want to hear about this gentleman over here and his story. So tell us a little bit about your story, Adrian. Just anything, just kind of like, how you got to East Bay, why East Bay? That's a good question.
Well, can I move
yeah, go for it. You can move it a little bit. Yep.
I feel like the reason that I'm here at East Bay was, I feel like it had a lot to do with building off of things that I had experienced from a young age. I had gone to a high school where I thought I was performing academically well, and to my surprise, I ended up getting sent to a continuation school after, which was a pretty tough experience for me, but I ultimately do think that's probably one of the biggest things that shaped who I am today. And through EOP, I was able to become a student here at CSU East Bay, which I'm extremely, extremely grateful for.
Yeah, we're grateful to have you. Welcome to the team. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, I mean, so I guess the other thing too, so I didn't know about EOP growing up, just kind of going into high school, like nobody really told us about EOP. How did you first hear about EOP, and was that something that was kind of pushed you and motivated you to come to East Bay?
No, yeah, for sure. The way I actually found out through EOP was through my girlfriend's dad. He actually went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and he was the one who ended up telling me about EOP because we have our own different stories, but he also got in through EOP, so he kind of just really brought it to my attention, and then I looked into it, and then that's when I met Kumar. That's when we set the meeting, and then from there, like, it really just, kind of took off from that.
Well, it all went downhill after you met Kumar.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Definitely not uphill.
It's always uphill. Yeah, no,
Uphill
I'm just
for sure.
joking because he's a great character, and I'm really glad that you got that, because he's again a big supporter of our programs and of East Bay. So really glad that you got to meet him. One of the first people you met. Good.
Yeah, if it's okay to share, Adrian, much like myself, actually got through what is called our exemption process, which EOP is really special to be able to provide. An exemption process is basically for high school students and even community college students who might not have necessarily met all of the requirements to get into a four-year university in a more traditional manner, right? So oftentimes when we're going through our admissions process, we're trying to identify students who display high potential, right? While acknowledging that there is a possibility that the system may have been the reason why they did not accomplish all that they could have accomplished, versus assuming that the student just didn't care. So in some cases, right, it's some students who may have been missing a math class, an English class, and we come to find out a lot of times through those conversations that it was because the school or a counselor misguided them. Right. And so the exemption process is an opportunity for a student to go through an interview process, which Adrian did. I actually was honored to conduct and facilitate the interview. And I kid you not, within the first 2 minutes, I was sold. I had to pretend and have a serious face that I wasn't sold just yet, because I wanted to make sure that he still was very much intentional in the space in communicating why he wanted to come to Cal State East Bay, right? I know a lot of people have their own perceptions on Cal State East Bay, that it's a lot of people's last choice. But for me, it was my only choice. So I have to admit that I have an extra level of love and pride for this campus than maybe most, without trying to generalize. And I wanted to make sure that if Adrian was going to come to our university, that not only was he ready to come here, but to succeed here. And so it's fun because during the interview process, at the end of it, we'll put him in a waiting room and we'll say, hey, we have to make a decision.
I told Santi about this.
So this is a part of the process to get into EOP if you're in the exemptions. We put him in a waiting room. Me and Kumar were just smiling. We said, this kid is amazing. There's no way that we're going to say no to him. If anything, we hope another school doesn't come in and swoop him up as well and actually get him to go there. So we brought him back, right? We asked him, how do you feel? Do you really want this? He said all the right things. I feel okay. I feel nervous. Yes, I want this. And I said, good, because you're going to be coming to Cal State University East Bay and be a part of our EOP program if you would like to join our family. He was smiles from ear to ear. Didn't really have many words at that moment, which I understood because I once found myself in that same situation. And the rest is history, but he is still now building upon that acceptance. And he's really a testament of when a door opens, how you make sure you run through that door and don't just put one foot in and keep one foot out. Because he has literally blasted through that door and he is doing amazing work here at Cal State East Bay. So shout out to you, Adrian.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I appreciate that a lot. Definitely. Don't worry. That was more like the green room. Like before you get drafted.
We got the steal of the draft.
We sure did. We sure did.
That's what it is.
I agree.
Awesome. And so, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that piece, because I think a lot of our students don't know how intricate this process is. You do get selected. So our incoming freshmen get an idea of how many students are part of this process, part of EOP. But after that point, it's not like all the details are told. So thanks for being so transparent about that, Dr. Martinez. Anybody else want to chime in on I think that's actually a good jumping off point is when you decided to go to EOP, because I don't think we talked about that. When EOP was even an idea. Maybe Kenya, if you could talk a little bit.
Dang. I think I didn't, when I came to East Bay, I wasn't aware of what EOP was. I heard about it with my advisor at my high school, but they never really went in depth as to what it actually was and what benefits you really got from it. So when I started coming to East Bay, I didn't know I had a counselor. I didn't know the difference between the counselors that we had, so I didn't know who to go to. I had a really tough year my freshman year. And that's because I didn't know what I had. I didn't know what EOP was. I didn't know what advisors there was. I didn't know I had a class with Dr. Martinez back when he was teaching our Foundations of Success class. But from there, I talked to Dr. Martinez. He showed me everything that EOP had to offer. And from there, I've literally been in EOP and really involved in EOP. And I feel like letting people know what EOP is in high school is really important, because it shows all the benefits, all the opportunities, all the success that could come from EOP. And I feel it's a very for only EOP, you have to come in through freshmen, so I feel you have a support throughout college, and you have specific people that can help you throughout college. And I think that's my experience with EOP. It's been great.
If I could share a little bit, I hope this is okay for me to share, Kenya. So yes, I was the instructor for the GS class, the General Studies Foundations to Success class. And this was during the midst of COVID, right? So everything was virtual. All the classes were virtual. I was teaching a class where all of the screens were blank, right? It was just names. And Kenya was in my class. And, I hope this is okay to say, but Kenya would sometimes be in class, sometimes wouldn't be in class. So I didn't really know what Kenya looked like, what she sounded like. She was just in my class, right? And one day I get an email and it says, Dr. Martinez, I'd really like to meet. I'm really going through it. I'm not quite sure if college is for me, right? And the reason why I want to share that is because I think Kenya is a testament of what resiliency looks like, advocacy looks like, and being honest with oneself looks like. So we ended up meeting, and I remember I may have requested, can you turn your camera on? Because I wanted to humanize the experience, right? Here we are, we're talking about potentially a life-changing decision that she might make. I at least want to know what you look like, right? So I can see you eye to eye and be able to make sure that whatever decision you make from here on is genuinely going to be what's best for you. And what it was, like it is for most freshmen, first-generation students, it was this experience of just feeling overwhelmed, right? Like coming to college is a huge transition. Some navigate it a little bit smoother than others, but I would say probably 75% have that experience where within the first year, they're like, I don't know if I can do this. But what I loved is not only did Kenya turn on the camera and I got a chance to see just how amazing of a person they were, but she had an open mind to still staying in college. And I think what Kenya just really needed was reassurance and confirmation that she belonged there. Because clearly some of those challenges may have led to her questioning, do I belong here? Can I do this? Right? As a first gen, a lot of times you're the first in your family really navigating this journey. And I'm so proud of Kenya because after that conversation, it's as if there was a fuel to the fire that was just relit. And since then, obviously there's still some up and down days, right? It's not going to be picture perfect, but she's here. And a lot of times that's all we can ever ask from a student is to keep showing up. Because if you keep showing up, you're giving yourself a chance. The moment you stop showing up is the moment there's nothing else to do at that point, right? So I just want to make sure that I honor you in that moment and just how much you have supported our program. And I'm so thankful that you stayed.
Thank you. And like we were saying before in our previous podcast, like the importance of showing up and like the importance in advocating for yourself and advocating for what you want, because if you're here for a reason, and obviously you're capable of doing what you set your mind to. And it just takes to talk about it with somebody that you are comfortable with, even if he's never seen me, like Dr. Martinez had never seen me, I still felt like, hey, like it's worth the try. And you have to put yourself out there and like take risks in order to like be able to overcome the battles that you have throughout college.
Hey, Danny.
For me, honestly, if it wasn't because of Avid, I would have not known what Avid. EOP is. I was an Avid for all 4 years in high school, and it was a cool experience. It helped me with applying to colleges and how it worked, the application, FAFSA, introduced EOP. We visited here, Cal State East Bay was one of the tours that they gave us, as well as some in San Francisco. It was a nice experience, like I said, taught me a lot because I'm also, first generation student, so I didn't have anybody else to be asking like questions. Sure. My sister didn't go to college, so but Avid had helped me a lot, and now being a part of EOP, it kind of reminds me of Avid in a way, in the sense of like having that family feeling, and it's a great community to be involved.
Definitely. Yeah.
I'll share a quick one about Danny since I'm here sharing with everybody. So Danny was on my caseload. It was my very first caseload coming to Cal State East Bay. So I transitioned here to East Bay from high school in Richmond, California, which is my hometown. So shout out Richmond, Making Waves Charter Academy. And I came here again in the midst of the pandemic. And Danny was actually one, if not the first student that I think I actually had an appointment with.
Oh my God.
And from the
No, I didn't know this.
Yeah, she probably didn't know that either, right?
No, I didn't.
And I just remember from the moment that I met Danny, I was like, oh yeah, this student just gets it. It gets it. And I think a part of that was having some preparation through Avid, right? Which is a program that really pushes you and really teaches you how to organize yourself, how to be structured, time management skills, study skills, right? And it was very apparent that Danny took all of that serious in high school. And within our first Zoom interaction, I was like, oh yeah, this is a student that's just going to need like just nurture, love, and support. But intellectually, like they've been prepared because they've embraced all of those awesome opportunities that you took advantage of. And so, Yeah, Danny's an all-star for sure.
Thank you.
No, yeah, definitely. And it's just listening to you all talk about your stories and just kind of how all this came to be. For some reason, I kept thinking about your first episode when Santi, that was honestly, and we've had a lot of amazing episodes, but some of those segments are still some of my favorites when you talked about your background and you were just so open about the difficulties where you came from and then just kind of where you are now. Like you're an example for our students, man. I just want you to know that. And so I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that at all, but I just wanted to, that's what came to my mind, so I don't remember if you talked about when EOP became a thing for you.
Let me get close.
Yeah, get close to that mic.
So that's a good question. I never honestly thought about that. So I had heard about EOP in high school, but I feel like just like many high schoolers, I didn't really take it seriously. I wasn't really interested to know what it was, or like I just kind of knew it was like a program to help like incoming students, but like I didn't know it was like for first gen. I didn't know you were gonna get a counselor. I didn't know about the grant or just none of that stuff. Just because like I had my own personal stuff going on in high school, I was kind of being, I guess, forced to apply to go to college in a way. Like I didn't really want to go. My counselor just kind of pushed me to apply because I guess they saw potential in me, but I don't know. I never saw it. So it wasn't until I got to college and I think Dr. Martinez, he had emailed me because I was on his caseload too. I think were we all on his caseload? Wait, who was? Oh no,
Kenya wasn't. It was just you and Danny.
So yeah, he had emailed me, and honestly, I mean, he introduced himself, but like I wasn't really sure, like I guess his role in a way, he said he was like a counselor to me. He was gonna be a counselor, but I didn't know he was an EOP counselor. I just thought he was like a counselor for the whole school, and then. The only thing I knew coming into college was like that I wanted to have a different experience than high school. Yeah. Like I didn't want to, just because when I was a freshman and a sophomore in high school, like I was out kind of like partying, not to put myself on blast. I was just always going out with my friends and just doing things. And then my brother-in-law passed away my junior year, and then COVID hit. And then I had to take a lot of responsibility, and just a lot of things happened. Like, I applied to college by myself. I did financial aid by myself. I kind of did everything by myself. So, yeah, like I just got my 2 letters of recommendation from my high school teachers. Nice. Shout out to them.
Absolutely.
And, like it just happened. Like I just knew, like when I met him, like when he emailed me, Dr. Martinez, I wanted to get in touch with him and like I said, I wanted to have a different experience. Like I wanted to get to know my counselors. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do better and just be a better person. And that's kind of what kept me pushing.
Yeah, quick story on Santi. So it was either our first or our second meeting. We're Zooming. He's on his phone. He's Zooming through his phone, and he's literally working in these apartment complexes. Like we're in the meeting, and he's like, I'm gonna put the phone down, okay? I'm painting these steps or something. I'm like, there's no way this guy's serious. Never could I have imagined that he was gonna be this incredible, hard-driven, ambitious person. But it actually makes sense because there he is, trying to meet with his counselor while working in a hot day. It looked like a hot day
it was
too.
Hot that day.
And it was actually so. Forgive me, Danny. I think Santi might have been my first appointment because he actually scheduled the appointment during the summertime.
Yeah.
So even before the semester started.
Oh my God! I need to talk about that. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
So that like literally, I met with Dr. Martinez when I was still a senior in high school. Yeah. Literally, I was finishing on my last. I think it was like in May.
You're right. You were still in school.
And then I remember I interviewed him for a project for my English class.
That's right. I remember now.
I remember that. I don't know if that was our very first meeting, though.
That might have been our second one, the interview, or one of these, where second, third interviews, or meetings, forgive me.
And then the time that I set up the meeting and I was at work, that was during the summer.
Yes.
And then I was just painting, they just had me painting, just these steps in these apartment complexes. So,
yeah.
Is this community service type stuff?
No,
you're doing your hours?
Working with his dad.
I was working with my dad.
Okay.
Which is basically community service.
It's basically community service, yeah.
So, no, he was very proactive, and it definitely caught my attention for sure.
My gosh, yeah. That's the thing. This is all kind of goes back to memory lane and actually, I just want to say this is real quick. We didn't meet, so him and I didn't meet physically for a long time. Yeah. By the way, so we actually became friends virtually before we actually met each other, which is kind of funny. And I think did we start? We kind of had a side podcast thing that we used to do. Did we do that before we even met?
No, I think we
Okay,
might have
we had met already
a
at that
few
point.
times
Okay.
because they brought us back to campus. Wow.
Yes,
Sorry,
that's
I'm putting
right.
campus on blast.
Yeah,
They brought
that's
us
right.
back to campus during the midst of the
The pandemic was weird, guys.
Yeah, but
It
I
was
don't
weird.
blame them. It was something
Yeah.
that obviously was such unprecedented times, right?
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
don't think our country, society, our world was prepared on how to navigate the pandemic. So we were working from home. I started my job from home, and that's why Will and I hadn't even met.
Yep.
So everything was Zoom. Everything. Like I
Yep.
met the team through Zoom. Everything was through Zoom.
That's
Very unorthodox for sure. Then they brought us back for what? Maybe like a few weeks, and then realized,
go
oh,
back.
that's a bad idea.
No.
Let's send
You're
y'all
the only
back
ones on
home.
campus. No one else
Yeah,
is here.
nobody else was here. It
Oh
was
my
wild
God.
for sure. Good intentions, but clearly we needed to go back home, and we did at that time.
Yeah, it was very much like Walking Dead, that kind of thing. If anybody
Yeah,
has watched that or
Zombieland
knows,
for
it's very
sure.
Zombieland-ish. Where it's like you're the only ones there. All the buildings are like, they're empty or whatever.
Yeah.
It was very strange.
Yeah.
So thanks for being back on campus, you guys.
Yeah,
this
for
is
sure.
this
We
is why we
needed
need
y'all.
you to come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's all I really wanted to ask in terms of the EOP piece. But is there anything else that somebody, I mean, as far as, I guess we can get into your journey a little bit too in terms of EOP, if you want to, for those of us that don't already know. But yeah, you mentioned being a late admit. But I think there's also some more to that too, right? Somebody who, because I think some of us on here have mentioned there was a teacher
Yeah.
or my parent or a friend.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so, to kind of go back down memory lane, once again, I'm from Richmond, California, which is here in the Bay Area. And during the 90s, early 2000s, and probably even before, but I'm from 1990, so that's from the time that I can speak of. Richmond was one of those communities, right, that is very much impoverished. You have a lot of people struggling financially. And oftentimes when there are communities where you have lots of people struggling financially, you have people also making decisions that might not be the best decisions because they're just trying to survive, right? They're literally just trying to get from day to day. So I think oftentimes when we look at these communities, we're like, oh, it's so violent, it's so dangerous. I think we got to really look at the root of it. Like, why would anybody ever make these decisions unless it was because they felt like they were in like self-preservance mode, right? Survival mode, desperation mode. And so those words, I think, very much describe the environment that I grew up in. You had a lot of folks doing things that weren't necessarily the most positive. And for the youth, that meant that those were our role models, right? So it wasn't necessarily the best of role models, quote unquote best. And so there weren't a lot of examples of folks who were going to college. So for me, the idea of going to college was like a dream, and sometimes not even a dream. Like I didn't think it was necessarily really a reality for me. My mom and grandma, to kind of shout out them too, migrated to this country from El Salvador. Like I'm sure a lot of us can probably testify within our families who came to this country from their original countries. They made the sacrifice of leaving home, their families, their known areas in search for the quote-unquote American dream. Yeah. Right, which if you've ever had a chance to talk to your family, I'm sure they've told you that it wasn't such a dream once they got here, right? No. Due to the layers and layers of challenges that you come from the culture shock, right? The United States culture versus Mexico, Salvador, any other Latin American country is so different, right? Mm-hmm. The language barrier, having to basically assimilate the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you look, the way you talk, right? To meet the standards of the U.S. kind of expectations, right? But I mentioned that because them coming here, they came with very little history of educational success, right? I think my mom got maybe to middle school. She tried some high school out here, but due to a need of financial support, she went straight to work, right? And so shout out to my mom because she's been working since she was maybe 14, 15, and hasn't stopped since, you know what I mean? As I'm sure a lot of our parents probably fall into that same kind of experience. And so growing up as a first gen, I was also the oldest from my mom. And I joked around on a different podcast that I'm in that I was kind of like her guinea pig. I was kind of like her experiment, right? Like everything was a first for her. And my mom was a young mom. She was 24, right? I can't imagine having been a parent at 24. I'm 30, about to turn 34, and I have 2-year-old daughters. And I'm like, I could not have done that at 24. I'm barely doing it now at 34 almost, right? So I'm trying to really paint this picture of just like this journey that is not only mine or did not only start with me, but started with my community, includes my family, includes their home country of El Salvador here to the U.S. And then here I am, right, navigating the U.S. educational system without much information or insight on resources. I didn't go necessarily to the type of schools that made sure you were connected with tutoring, made sure you were connected to a counselor. No, not at all. I was one of those kids that just kind of sat in the back, stayed as quiet as I could to stay out of trouble. But what that did was that teachers didn't really worry about me. They're like, okay, we don't really got to engage with him. Like, he's staying out of trouble. Because a lot of my other peers were like jumping on the tables or flipping chairs, right? Like, that's just real. So for them, it was like, hey, let's let him sit back there because at least he's not causing any stress for the classroom. But the unintended impact of that is that I didn't learn. I'd probably have to admit that maybe by middle school, my reading level was like a second grade, just to be really candid. I can't recall having read a book at all, even in middle school. There I started to make some friends, and that kind of was supportive to me engaging myself a little bit more in school. Another part of my identity is I am an ex-athlete, at least high school athlete. I played baseball majority of my life, and I want to mention that because that was kind of my outlet. Me and Adrian were talking about some personal things a little bit earlier, and amongst all of these different trials, turbulations, challenges, negative influences, for me, baseball was my outlet. Like going to practice, preparing for games. I remember that I used to live in an apartment where we had this like really big wall. I used to throw the tennis ball that I had back from it and it would come back. That's how I would practice by myself. Yeah. And that is what kept me from being out in the streets with a lot of my friends who were out in the streets at maybe like 12, 13, drinking, smoking, all of these things that were accessible to them, right? That weren't necessarily contributing to a better future, but that was how we just coped with our realities, right? So for me, it was baseball. And then it was the love of my grandma. Shout out my grandma and my mom. Who, even as they were learning how to raise, a young man in this country, the one thing that they did give me, if nothing else, was love. And I think that went a long way with me wanting to honor the things that they wanted for me, which was that of a better life, right? I remember my mom would say, mijo, yo quiero que tú tengas una vida diferente que la que yo tuve, which is, I want you to have a life different than mine, right? So she actually was very adamant in me not working. She's like, I will work 2 or 3 jobs if I have to. I want you to be in school. Yeah. And even though like that was so dope, I didn't know how to do school though, right? So then there was also that guilt. I'm like, I'm not contributing financially. In high school, I'm a straight C student. I don't have any aspirations to go to college. I felt like I really had let her down. So fast forward to kind of that teacher. Shout out Mr. Pollock. I'll make sure I clip this and send this to you if we get this video. Definitely. Senior year, it was a very interesting class. It was like one semester history, the other semester econ, right? And at some point, he had us write an assignment. And for better or for worse, the one thing that I was really good at was writing. Not from a grammatical point. Like, I didn't know where to put a comma. I didn't know how to use an exclamation mark. I didn't know the difference between there, and there. But if you asked me to write a paper of like the most wild thing I did, I could tell you that I climbed Mount Everest on one leg because I injured I could create the wildest things. I had an imagination. Nice. Shout out 90 kids, right? Because we didn't have phones. So we had to actually go outside and pretend we were the Power Ranger. We were the baseball player. Like, we very much tapped into our imaginations, and I utilized that imagination within my writing abilities. But he gave us an assignment which was write about your life. Yeah. And at the time I was like, why is he asking us to write about our lives? I've never had anybody ask me to do anything along those lines. And so I remember I went home, and mind y'all, this is before like laptops were as accessible. I might have had a desktop, but a lot of the assignments at this time were all expected to be handwritten, right? And with that came the business decision of how much do I really want to write? Because my hand's going to cramp at one point or another, right? So I need to be strategic with this approach. But for some reason, when I got home, right, it kind of got late. Let's say it's like 7 p.m. I want to kind of set the environment. It's like 7 p.m., had a little desk in my room that I would sit at, and I was just staring at this blank piece of paper, right? And I'm thinking to myself, how much do I really want to share? How open do I really want to be? And I don't know why, y'all, I just decided to pour like my heart into that piece of paper. So I started off with writing how difficult it was actually. Well, I wrote that I was from Richmond, California, that I grew up in a single parent household. And then I transitioned into the challenges and difficulties of growing up without a dad, right? Again, having played baseball, I mentioned how it just hurt so bad to sometimes be waiting for my games and see some of my players playing catch with their dads. And I never had that experience, right? And just how it was tough to not have that male figure. That was the first time I had really admitted that, but I put that on there. I wrote about how tough it was for me to live in an environment like Richmond. Like, I had some of my best friends get expelled from my high school after a big brawl. And after that, I felt like I kind of lost myself with who I even wanted to hang out with or who I would spend time with, right? So I wrote just how difficult it was to be in that environment, to never know if the people you love are going to be there tomorrow. right? And that was just from an expulsion standpoint. Let me not even get into some of the people that, you know, had their lives taken away early, right? Because of unnecessary, very insignificant things. But in those communities, people literally lose their lives over something that's not even worth it. Right. So I think that was kind of didn't need to be said because Polak had worked there for 10 years and he had seen it all. Right. So I wrote that. And then I also wrote how I just felt like I was a big letdown to my mom and my grandma. You know, I put in the paper how I felt like I was so afraid to fail that I never even gave myself a chance to try to succeed. Right. I kept asking myself, what's the point? It's not going to work out. Or I kept telling myself, what's the point? It's not going to work out. Or I kept asking myself, well, what if I try and it doesn't work out? Yet never giving myself the chance to actually try, right? So long story short, you know, I put that. Another thing I actually put, just because, and I hope it's okay to be candid in this way, another challenge that I had is that I saw my mom in a lot of abusive relationships. So in addition to like not having my own dad, I did see my mom get abused mentally, emotionally, physically, and I wrote how powerless I felt in those moments to feel like as the man of the house, you know, at 13, 14, whatever, I wasn't really a man. I was a kid. I was a boy. But to feel like I didn't even know how to help my mom in those situations. I don't know why, but I felt like I needed to include that part, right? Because he's asking me, or he's asking us to write about our lives. So long story short, turn in that paper, you know, don't really think twice. The following day, Mr. Polak says, hey, Antonio, I need you to stay after class. I need to talk to you about this paper. And I said, oh, no.
What did I put in that
like,
paper?
Why did I write all of that, right?
Adrian, I've said too much.
I said too much, right? So I remember going up to him after class and I say, just throw it away. And he's like, what? I said, just throw it away, please. Like, I don't want you to call my mom. I do everything so that my mom never gets a call from the principal or anything. That's the last thing I want. She works 2 jobs. And he's like, hold up, just breathe, just breathe. I'm like panicking, right? Like, I am so nervous. And he says, Antonio, I actually used to go by Elmer, by the way, and that's a different story for another day. So Elmer, he says, have you really lived these things that you put on this paper? And that was a really interesting question. And I said, yeah, I wouldn't have put it if I didn't. He's like, you've gone through a lot. But my natural response is like, yeah, don't we all? Like, all of my friends, I see we all kind of go through these same things too. And he said, yeah, you're right. You know, having worked here for 10 years, I've seen the best and the worst of experience that a human can go through in kids just your age, and working at this high school. And he said, but in the 10 years that I've worked here, I've never had, especially a young man, be this open and this vulnerable about their lives. And so my first thought was like, okay, cool. Did I pass? Like, do I get an A? Right? Like that? Yeah. Does that mean that I'm getting a passing grade? That's all I was worried about. And he says, yes, Antonio, you pass. He says, but I want to ask you, have you ever thought about college? And it felt, in a weird way, kind of felt like an offensive question because I was like, you're messing with me, right? Like, and I told him, you've seen my grades, right, Polak? Like, I'm like a 2.1 student. You know, from what I heard, you need to have a 2.5, 2.6, like 3.0, 4.0. That's not me. And he was like, okay, you're right. I have seen your grades. He's like, but you have so much potential. And I said, okay, that's great. But then how's my mom going to pay for college? I had no clue what financial aid was. I had never attended a financial aid workshop. Nobody ever told me about FAFSA. So I'm a senior, y'all. We literally have like maybe 2 months of school left. The deadlines to have applied were literally like right there, on the cusp of, you know, being past the deadline. So, you know, he tells me, Antonio, or Elmer at the time, I want to help you. Do you want to trust me? And I said, yeah. You know, he was like a father figure in a lot of ways. He'd always ask me, how was your baseball game? How are you doing? How was practice? Yeah, like always checked on me. How's mom? How's grandma? Super dope. I never knew what he was doing at the time. I think he was just asking me questions because he was very good with all the students. But he was literally an angel on earth, took me under his wings. The story's super long, but long story short, I got into EOP. I had to interview with Diane. Shout out Diane, who's actually one of our counselors. I was 17, 18 at the time. And, you know, I remember in the interview, the one thing I remember is they said, Antonio, we got your transcripts, and in reviewing them, you know, it doesn't seem like you're all that committed to school. Why should we give you this opportunity? Because at the time, they had already like solidified the EOP Summer Bridge like group of students. Right. I was going to be like an extra student that they were going to have to like buy food for, like accommodate for, you know, add to the classes. And, you know, I told them, I said, you know what, you're right. I wasn't putting my best foot forward. But I promise you, if you give me this chance, not only will I show up every single day, but I will go above and beyond for you, because that is what my mom and my grandma have always deserved me to do. And that is what I've always deserved to do for myself too. but I put it in your hands to make that decision. And if this isn't for me, like, you know, I'll accept that. But, you know, clearly I wanted to be a part of the program. I felt like this was my chance at that life my mom always wanted for me, right? Yeah. 2 weeks went by. They told me they would hit up Mr. Polak to let them know what their decision was. So every day I was like, Polak, did you hear from them? Polak, did you hear from them? He's like, no, I haven't heard from them. And then the day that he heard from them, he taps me on the shoulder and he's like, hey, stay after class. I have some news for you. I don't know if you're going to like it or not. And so my mind is thinking about everything, right? They said no. They had to say no. Like, why would I not like it, right? And at the time in the community of Richmond, and this is probably a thing in different communities, no matter how hot it was, black hoodies was a thing. Oversized black hoodies. It might have been a 90s, 2000s like fashion statement. We would wear black hoodies even if it was 100 degrees. And so I had a black hoodie on. And another reason why I came to learn, sorry if I'm going a little bit on a tangent, is for young men of color, black hoodies was also a way to kind of hide yourself when you needed to hide yourself by putting that hood over your head. And so whenever you didn't want to be seen, whenever maybe you were feeling emotionally, we would put our hoods over our heads and just walk with our faces down, right? I know that now. At the time, I had no clue why we did that. Okay. But the reason why I mentioned the black hoodie was when class ended, which is when he told me he would tell me the news, I remember all the kids were leaving. I put my head down and I put my hoodie over my head, right? And he taps me on the shoulder. I lift my head up and I'm bawling, y'all. I'm crying because I'm expecting the worst of the worst. I mean, you grow up in a community like that. Nothing good ever happens to none of us, right? So he looks at me. He's like, why are you crying? And I said, because, Polak, they probably said no. Like, can you just give me the hard news? I'm already prepared for it. He said, Elmer, no. They didn't say no. I'm so sorry. The thing is that you're going to have to do a summer program. And it's 4 weeks. And he's like, and I know you probably don't want to give up your summer. I said, Polak, what are you talking about? I'll give up whatever I got to give up for this opportunity. And so I did a summer week program, 4 weeks from 8 to 4 p.m. Like, this was a legit program. And you know, shout out to myself. I'm learning self-love. I actually ended up winning like the valedictorian kind of honors for that program, which was really cool. Yeah, it was really cool. Talked in front of the parents and different staff. Yeah, no, for sure. It was dope. It was dope. It was the first time I think I had ever been honored with such an award that wasn't like a sports-related an award. And I think that moment, that program gave me a sense of belief in myself that I had never felt. And I don't know if y'all have ever felt this, but like when you feel something like that, you never want to like live without that feeling, right? When you feel something good, think about the first time you've ever tasted ice cream. Probably y'all were kids, right? But now you love ice cream, right? Like you never want to live life without knowing what ice cream tastes like. When I got that taste of success and belief from people, I was like, yeah, I owe it to myself and I owe it to these people who love me and who care about me to be successful. There's nothing, like there's no other route in my life but success. So sorry, I know that was a really long story.
No, not at all. No, I mean that's why we do this, and there's no time limit. By the way, no, thank you, because it's funny because we know each other pretty well, and I learned some stuff during that exchange, and so that's really cool. And yeah, I mean, do you still keep in touch at all with what's Mr. Polak doing at this point?
Yeah, so since I graduated, man, I'm gonna date myself. That's in 2008, y'all. So I mean, it's been a while.
I'm older than you.
I know. Yeah. We won't tell you, y'all. Since I graduated, this man's been saying he's gonna retire from that school. He still works there.
He's there.
He still works there.
Okay, I gotta visit this guy.
Yeah.
We're gonna all visit. Take the podcast.
Y'all.
We gotta do
exactly.
it. We might have to do it.
That would be cool.
I want to go because I want to hear him say the story.
Yeah, so
I do too.
So he's still there, and he's so committed to the community, man. I mean, again, this guy, bless his heart, he's lost a lot of students because of the realities of teaching in a community like that, right? I actually met with him late last year. We got a drink. I won't specify what kind of drink we got, but it was a good time just catching up. That's great. And him just being so proud of me, you know, and he's like, I saw it. He's like, and it was undeniable, and I would not have been able to be at peace unless I had invested in you in the way that you deserved for someone to have invested in you. And so I have so much love for that, man. I sent him pictures of my twins. Like, he's basically like a father to me. And I've told him that he is, in the time that he's impacted my life, been more than I could have ever asked for from like a male father figure.
Damn. There you go.
Yeah.
How you guys feel about that?
That's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, you know, it's funny because we have these people that come into our lives and we're not expecting it. And I'm sure like you were sitting there probably, you know, sophomore year, junior year, and you were just kind of going through it and going through the motions. Yep. And, and then all of a sudden you get into his class and here's somebody who actually cares.
Yeah.
Because I think, and that's not to say that teachers don't, but very rarely do teachers show it in such a passionate and engaging way and intentional way.
Yeah.
And so, that's really, really cool. I've had that only a few times in my life where I've seen that the teacher like really goes above and beyond to make sure that I'm okay or that anyone else is okay. And so that's really, really cool. So, I mean, all I'll say is that, we got to bring you back as a counselor, because it looks like the recruitment of the All-Stars plus.
Man, if I could be a director and counselor simultaneously, sign me up. Trust me.
Yeah, no. But we're super thankful to have you in whatever capacity, because that's the thing. Like you are a living, breathing example that this is all possible.
Yeah.
And you're an example, obviously, to these 4 here, but to all the ones that are to come. And so, thank you so much for sharing all that and being so candid. Does anybody have any? So one thing we do here on the show, you kind of will learn, but we just do final thoughts. Final thoughts. Yeah. Or any shout outs or any. I love Kenya. Why you just Danny, take the mic.
Well, you were getting it closer to you.
Order.
Events coming up. Obviously, we have end of year coming up. Does anyone want to talk about that? So final thoughts and then events. Anybody?
I was actually very impressed. I did not know most of your story. That's actually
here you go.
New information to me. I knew some of it, but I didn't know the whole detail. And
Yeah.
I can relate with you with some of the portion, like being raised as a single parent and the struggles that comes behind it. So I'm proud of you too, because you've gone through a lot and you've done so much. You got your doctorate degree, which is a lot as a first generation student. So but yeah, that's my thoughts from your story. And any events. The end of the year celebration, I believe, is happening April 26th.
Yep.
At 5:30 to 7:30 at the gym.
At the gym, the
at
Pioneer
the
Gym.
Yep, the Pioneer Gym.
So it is going to
Yeah,
be at
Pioneer
the
Gym.
then?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you all going to? I mean, are you?
I'm going to.
You're going, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going. I think I'm going to help just assist.
I don't think that Danny, Jerika, and Leslie would let Santi not go. I feel
That's
like
a
they'd be
good
like,
point. I
you
forgot
better
about
block
that.
out that time.
Are you
Yeah.
going, Adrian? No pressure.
I still gotta look into the schedule.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
you're invited. You're
Cool.
invited.
You're invited.
It's
Absolutely.
on Friday, so
Yeah.
Oh, just like Danny said, you learn something out of somebody that you've known for so long, just by listening to them, and it just gets crazier and crazier to see all the accomplishments Dr. Martinez has done and all the struggles that he went through, because I feel like by sharing these struggles just helps your students feel more comfortable. But I think you said something earlier that I was I feel like every first gen student relates to it, but I forgot what it was, sorry. But basically saying we all have similar stories, but they're all so different, and we all go through so much that we can support each other if we're just open.
Yeah.
If we just allow ourselves to be vulnerable and allow ourselves to like I said before, take risks. You took the risk on putting whatever you needed to put on that paper, and it got you to college. Something as simple as that can change your course of life. And I feel like that's very important to always keep in mind. And I feel like the worst, how do you say, your biggest enemy is yourself, because you stop yourself from, like you said, if you're automatically thinking oh, I'm not gonna do it, what if I don't get in, what if I don't do this? Even me today, I was saying the exact same thing. So you always just have to remind yourself that if you don't do it, you're never gonna know. And if you do feel, it's okay, because it's there's still other options you can take. And I feel like that's very important. We have an event, a virtual event happening for EOP students, because how many % are online? I forgot.
I don't know, but a lot.
A
lot.
We have a lot of online students, so to incorporate them into the EOP community, we're having a virtual event on the 17th on Wednesday from 12 to 1 p.m. You should join us. Should be fun.
Get a flyer out.
Yeah, we do have
You
a
got the flyer.
flyer
All right, cool.
It was sent by email.
All right.
to
From
all
EOP.
EOP.
Yeah,
So,
from EOP.
as we always say on the show, check your emails.
Please
Yeah.
and thank you.
Check your emails. Check IG. Might be on IG as well.
Yeah, we'll
social?
post it.
A
Yeah.
little bit social?
Our social media is
check
what
social.
is it? Peer EOP CSU EB Peer Mentors.
There you go.
Oh, you have the IG. You guys have your own IG.
Yeah, we do have our own ID. You
See,
guys
how do
should
I not know
follow
this?
it.
I just know our main. So I just know CSU EB EOP. Okay.
No, we have our own
Okay,
personal.
well, I'll follow you then.
Yeah, CSU EB _ EOP dot peer mentors.
Oh, there we go.
There you
Okay. Cool. Yeah, let's send that out. Let's send that out to everybody. Final thoughts, you guys? Anything?
Oh man, I don't. I've just been thinking this whole time like about a lot of different things, but I feel like I kind of suck sometimes at expressing myself. But I just want to say that I'm proud of Dr. Martinez, and I just think he's an amazing individual. Like, you know, he doesn't. I don't know if he really understands how much of a role he really plays in our lives, and you know, I'm gonna speak for myself obviously here, but you know, like he's just pushed me. He's made me like think critically and just be more open-minded, you know. And I just feel like he's helped with my development, like as a person, you know, like instead of like pushing away or shying away from a lot of opportunities, like, you know, because of him, like we went to Sacramento State on a trip to a conference, and I didn't want to go at first because like I never liked the idea of being away from home, you know. I was very close to my family just because they're the ones that were there for me all the time. But, you know, he's given me those opportunities, the opportunity to be a peer mentor. And, like, even then, like, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to be a peer mentor. Like, I fought with myself about it. And, I mean, I'm here now, right? And not only am I proud of him, but I'm also, like, proud of Adrian because he's actually one of my mentees. And we did a summer program together. Well, I was the mentor and he was the mentee in the program. And, you know, he told me a lot about his story, you know. He kind of already explained a little bit. I won't go too into detail, but, you know, I know what he's been through. He's told me, and, like, I know I don't want to put him on blast, but it's in a good way. Like, this dude, like, he's gotten, like, not even a C in his first year of college. And, like, hearing his story and everything, like, I feel like he needs to pat himself on the back. And just, you know, he's an amazing individual. Like, I'm happy I met him. I'm happy that Dr. Martinez gave me the opportunity to meet him because I'm a peer mentor because of him. And just everything, like, I'm thankful and for these two amazing individuals and just everybody in here, of course. So, yeah.
Thank you, Santi.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. This was.
You gotta give
Adrian. Any final thoughts?
I mean, just from hearing everybody speak, it's really like kind of how you were saying, like it opens doors for a lot of us. It just makes you feel a different type of comfort. And, you know, bouncing off of what Santiago was saying, I'm extremely grateful for everybody at this table, even like in any sense, in every way. Like, you guys have an impact on a lot of things. I don't know, I feel like, but I had somewhere I was going.
It'd be like that.
That happens to me a lot.
It's my first episode.
Yeah, I love that. That's the mic drop.
That is the mic drop. It's my first episode. Hey, but it won't be your last. So just remember
He's
that.
a freshman. He's gonna become the
Yeah.
leader of these
Yeah.
podcasts at some point. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot more of these to come. And especially now that all of you are joining me, and I don't know how many will be left in the summertime, but I'm going to keep it going. And that way we'll get it going in a much quicker way in the fall than we did this last time. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time on EOPcast. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.